Good evening and welcome to another episode of Resource PNG. Tonight we feature a documentary on Heavy Lift Group, a PNG-owned multinational aviation charter service. Established in 1994, the company has grown considerably over the years to be one of the leading aviation charter services in the Asia-Pacific region. Also on the show, we showcase a report on the September Monetary Policy Statement, and we replay the Mine Rescue Challenge from last week's episode due to popular demand. And we have the resource news update from Martin Namarong. But first, let's take a look at Heavy Lift and seeing what the company is all about. Formerly operating as a regional aviation group, Heavy Lift is now one of the leading aviation charter service companies in the Asia-Pacific region. A PNG-owned multinational company. Established in 1994, Heavy Lift's service provision specializes in transportation of equipment and infrastructure for oil, gas and mining personnel and equipment in a variety of operational locations. Operating in Indonesia and Burma, the company has opportunities to operate in Thailand, Malaysia and Myanmar, serving the people and industry in Papua New Guinea. And based in Mount Hagen, Heavy Lift operates domestic charter air services. Operating in Indonesia, Myanmar and Burma, there are opportunities for the company to expand in Thailand, Malaysia and the Philippines. Heavy Lift Group has expanded considerably as a PNG company.
At the moment we've got operations in PNG, we've got operations in Indonesia in an area called Balikpapan, and we've also got operations in Burma. Hopefully by the end of this year we will have won significant contracts in Thailand, Malaysia and possibly additional contracts in Myanmar.
We have expanded from just operating in PNG to almost 6 countries in the Asia-Pacific region. We also operate in Indonesia, Myanmar, which is one of those, used to be one of those communist regime, Thailand, we've got license in Malaysia and Australia, and we're looking to expand towards Philippines and the other countries within the Asia-Pacific region.
Establishing itself as a leading aviation charter service, Heavy Lift's development can be seen in the growth of its fleet from 27 to 50 aircrafts in a span of almost 3 years.
Well, we started off with, when we bought into Heavy Lift, it was only 27 helicopters and plane. Now it has almost 50 helicopters and planes in a space of less than 3 years.
At this point we're running 50 aircraft, so it's a significant fleet.
The fleet comprises of fixed and rotary wing aircraft, specifically chosen for their proven performance, reliability and capabilities in successfully completing the tasks in often difficult and challenging circumstances. The current fleet includes the ATR 42-320 and DHC 6300 Twin Otter fixed-wing aircraft, the Bell 412, Bell 212, Bell 206, Bell 407, and Sikorsky 76C, and the MIL 8MTV-1 rotary wing aircraft. The company's diverse fixed and rotary wing fleet operated and maintained by a highly experienced team of flight crew and maintenance personnel has been part of Heavy Lift Group's success. More of this documentary after the break. A cornerstone of heavy lift success has been attributed to many factors. We take a look at some of the factors in this next segment of our feature on heavy lift. The company's success as one of the leading aviation charter services in the Asia-Pacific region has been attributed to many factors.
They have a proven track record of providing reliable and good services within the mining and petroleum sector.
But one that is evident is in their group policies that governs daily operations in quality management system, safety, management, alcohol and drugs, environment, and equal opportunity for all staff.
The group policies are designed and are reflective of the type of people that we would like to join heavy lift. So in other words, the human resource that we have out there. The human resource in the aviation industry, particularly in our industry, is very limited. So through those policies, we are trying to continually attract the new talent out there to come into the business. But also beyond that is we've also got the policies that reflect our goals and aspirations as a company, our values, and our values then translate into what sort of clients we attract. For example, we're operating with the world's biggest companies, ExxonMobil, for example. We're working with Xstrata. We're also working with PTTEP in Thailand. We're also working with ConocoPhillips, and the list goes on. And we believe that through the implementation of our policies is we've positioned heavy lift so that it is a player in that market.
Another contributing factor to the company's success lies in its shareholding. In 2009, the Mineral Resources Development Company, MRDC, acquired shares in Heavy Lift under the leadership of Managing Director Augustine Mano. This acquisition was a timely investment in preparation for the PNG LNG project, as Mr. Mano explains.
MRDC became involved in 2009. That's when we acquired the shares. What prompted us to invest was when we had the PNG LNG project. In terms of landowner participation, it was minimum. They were participating at the lower end. We wanted to participate at the higher end, equivalent to what they call the EPC contractors were, which most of the Papua New Guinean companies could not qualify. So when buying into heavy lift, we were fortunate to get one of the most prestigious contracts with ExxonMobil, which was 5 huge Bell 414. And from that we started to expand. But not only that, after that we had a vision to expand beyond Papua New Guinea. That was one of the reasons why we bought into that, and we saw that looking at its book, it had a good reputation already in the industry, especially with the mining and petroleum sector.
Acquiring 50% shares in Heavy Lift, which was initially bought for 75 million kina, the company, over the last 3 years, has grown over 35%.
Now, when we bought it, there was controversies about what the value was. You know, there's no doubt that we bought it for 75 million during that time. But now, over the last 3 years, it's grown to almost 35% more than what it was. And looking at the size of the fleet and the contracts that we are getting, I'm proud of the success that Heavy Lift has been. And I think it's one of those only few truly Papua New Guinean multinational which has grown out of this country, and in its own rights it has got contracts in some of the biggest companies in the world in terms of mining and petroleum. I mean, in the petroleum sector you got Exxon, ConocoPhillips, Petronas. In the mining sector we have contracts with BHP in Indonesia, a couple of big companies. So to get contracts along that tells the story of who Heavy Lift is.
MRDC's involvement has helped Heavy Lift's expansion and operation branch into the Asia-Pacific region.
The company has come out of Papua New Guinea. It's a proud Papua New Guinean company. And some years ago, MRDC, under the stewardship of Augustine here, came aboard as a shareholder in Heavy Lift. And from Heavy Lift, from his acquisition or his insight into the future of Heavy Lift, we've now expanded out of Papua New Guinea, and now we're operating in countries like Indonesia. We've also got opportunities in Burma, and we're also now looking at opportunities in Thailand and Malaysia.
The company headquarters, formerly operating in Cairns, Australia, is now based in Singapore. another reason Mr. Boy believes why heavy lift has been so successful in the Asia-Pacific region.
PNG was the headquarters, and from that we looked at the opportunities that presented themselves for the Southeast Asian region, and we viewed that our best positioning would be in Singapore. We then approached the Singapore government to see what they could assist, how they could assist us in moving into the region, and they have given us quite a lot of incentives to relocate to Singapore. And as you know, if you look at the map, Singapore is central to the Southeast Asian region, and we also took the view that heavy lift PNG's growth was in the Southeast Asian region. So we've looked at how we can capitalise on that, and the best way was to position ourselves in Singapore.
We continue with Heavy Lift Group when we come back. Welcome back. With the Mineral Resources Development Company, MRDC, holding a 50% share in Heavy Lift Group, the Aviation Charter Service has grown considerably from its humble beginnings in 1994 to a multinational company well positioned in the Asia-Pacific region. In this segment, we see how Heavy Lift has expanded under the wings of MRDC. The scope of Heavy Lift Group's aviation service solutions is wide-ranging in both the industry and government sectors, through a wide variety of operational roles that include oil and gas industry support offshore and onshore, mining industry support, heli-rig oil and mineral exploration, seismic surveys, special mission support, medical evacuation including search and rescue, passenger transport, VIP and general, ship-to-shore transfers, and aerial construction work. In the engineering facility, the group provides in-house heavy maintenance and line maintenance, repair, overhaul, MRO, logistics and technical support for the extensive fleet of fixed and rotary wing aircraft. The component overhaul facility features an extensive range of non-destructive testing facilities, including eddy current, liquid dye penetrant, magnetic particle and ultrasonic inspection equipment. Heavy Lift maintains approvals for rotor hubs, drivetrains, blades, transmissions, hydraulic components, brakes, wheels, floats, hoists, load cells, cargo hooks, searchlights and hydraulic flight control components.
The Aviation Services Company has been folded into the engineering facility, and our engineering facility is for heavy maintenance and what we call deep maintenance. So for example, an aircraft will operate for a period of say 5 years. It'll then come into our heavy maintenance facility and it'll be stripped right back, repainted, the engines and the gearboxes will come out, and basically it'll be returned to service to the heavy lift operating entities, and that'll then continue their operations for another 5, 6 years, whatever the workload is at the time.
Meeting the needs of clients with regards to maximum safety, efficiency, optimum convenience, civility, dependability and value for money remain as Heavy Lift Group's core objective. With this, safety, quality and environmental management remain the main principles of which Heavy Lift Group operates. Corporate quality system control is the main focus to ensure the delivery of safe and sustainable aviation services are provided through a diversified and dynamic operating environment. The company achieves this through selective recruitment of staff, superior equipment and services, company and client support, technical expertise, supplier partnerships and industry leadership, as well as the implementation of safety management systems, SMS.
We have what we call an SMS system, which is the safety management systems, and that is a system that looks at the health of the company, and the health being the aircraft, the engineers, the pilots, the load masters, and we track that on a monthly, daily basis, and we have about 250 pointers that we look at on a monthly basis, and that is including also our responsibility to the environment. Obviously that's a very big issue for us. because we believe that as a responsible company that we have a responsibility to ensure that our environmental footprint is minimised.
When asked about Heavylift's vision moving forward, this is what Mr. Boy had to say.
A very simple one. It's to continue the growth, but also very much so to give the opportunities to the individuals within the countries that we operate in. For example, we have a mandate that we believe that the opportunities for heavy lift in PNG should be for the people of Papua New Guinea, the resource owners of Papua New Guinea and the wider community within Papua New Guinea, because we believe that our success is based on attracting those people to join our business. I thank Augustine and also John to my left here for the faith that they've shown in myself, and also the support that they have given Heavy Lift and also the team within Heavy Lift, and it is an ongoing support that they both provide, and I thank them very much for that.
Well, we started off with, when we bought into Heavy Lift, it was only 27 helicopters and plane. Now it has almost 50 helicopters and planes in a space of less than 3 years. The 400 workforces, and they are all from every corners of the region that we operate.
More of Resource PNG when we return. Thanks for staying with us. If you've just joined us, so far on the show we've featured a documentary on Heavy Lift Group, an investment of the Mineral Resources Development Company, MRDC, that has grown considerably since its establishment in 1994 to be one of the leading aviation charter services in the Asia-Pacific region. We now take a look at this report on the September Monetary Policy Statement that highlights the macroeconomic effects of PNG's monetary and fiscal policies and the dependence of PNG's economy on mineral exports to earn foreign currency.
The Bank of Papua New Guinea, also referred to as the Central Bank, has a key role in maintaining price stability by strategically intervening to correct runaway interest rates or foreign exchange rates. This is referred to as the monetary policy role of the bank. However, monetary policy alone cannot address these issues unless it is accompanied by complementary fiscal policy. Fiscal policy refers to how the national government manages the national budget. The macroeconomic effects of this, in other words, the effect of fiscal policy in terms of budgetary expenditure and monetary policy in terms of central bank interventions, have an impact on the state of the national economy. Recent adjustments in the resource sector have had significant repercussions on macroeconomic conditions in the country. For those unfamiliar with economic theory, these effects can be translated in terms of price fluctuations or inflation, the cost of borrowing or interest rates, and the value of the kina in terms of foreign exchange rates. Bank of Papua New Guinea Governor Loy Bakani highlighted these critical variables at a conference organized by the Papua New Guinea Economic Society recently at the National Research Institute.
There's been some elements of decisions made on those two areas. Recently also you've heard about the Octeri issue. So those are some of the issues that creep up in the process of this. So I think as we analyze the whole thing, the whole policy statements, those things have to be brought into the whole picture. The delay in the construction of the Wafi gold pool, and we expected the Ramonickel to really show up, be a prominent player in the export industry, export in Papua New Guinea, whether it's performing that role or not. I mean, those are the kind of things that we're seeing contributing to the status of the economy at the moment.
Further insights into the Central Bank Governor's statement can be found in the story of the movement of the kina. As a floating currency, the value of the kina is determined by capital flows, trade flows, and to a lesser extent, cross-border acquisitions of property. In terms of capital flows, the winding down of the LNG project has seen a reduction in the movement of foreign direct investment into the country. Government decisions on foreign ownership and reserve lease for businesses may also have an impact on capital flows in the future. On the trade front, balance of trade in terms of imports and export earnings has not been in PNG's favor. Papua New Guinea's economy is heavily dependent on mineral exports to earn foreign currency. The recent commodity price downturn has reduced PNG's foreign exchange earnings from mineral exports. This commodities downturn has created a current account deficit of around 1.3 billion kina.
The reserves, obviously we've been supporting the kina in the market. We used to be around 4 billion US. At the beginning of last year, we're now down to 3 billion US, and I think it's going to be projected by the end of the year will be close to around that level.
The role of the resource sector, therefore, in propping up the value of the kina and providing government revenue is significant, as highlighted by the challenges faced in the current context of a commodity price decline.
There's a big hole in the budget in terms of revenue, tax revenues coming through to government. We're seeing the effect of it through the foreign exchange market in terms of the inflows coming in is much more lower than what we used to have in the past, and that's why the main reason for the kina to depreciate since the second half of last year. Then of course how it affects GDP, the bottom underlying business activity or private sector activity in Papua New Guinea, the demand is still there, but with some stimulus coming from government. But I think the major impact slowdown is coming from relating to the LNG construction, and also, of course, the commodity price that is not giving that cash flow needed for the private sector to continue to generate economic activity or continue to do business in Papua New Guinea.
Understanding this interaction between foreign exchange earnings from commodity exports, currency movements, and government expenditure is crucial, as these are key forces that determine opportunities in the economy for both businesses and ordinary people. Take, for instance, the price of petrol you pay at the Bowser. On the world market, crude oil prices have declined. However, since the value of our kina has also declined, Papua New Guineans are not benefiting from a reduction in prices on the world market. Instead, the cost of crude oil in kina terms has increased, and this cost has been passed on to consumers. People sending money to relatives overseas will also notice the reduction in dollar terms in countries such as New Zealand and Australia. The central bank therefore believes that unless the commodity price downturn is reversed, the downward pressure on the kina will remain until at least by the end of next year, when LNG exports begin. Governor Loy Bakani also highlighted that the fiscal stimulus that underpinned budgetary expansion in the 2013 budget figures has not been transmitted to the economy due to capacity constraints. This has resulted in lower than expected growth figures. Governor Bakani proposed that the nation should now focus on its renewable sectors of the economy to ensure a more sustainable growth path.
We should now refocus on renewable sectors so that we don't continue to depend on non-renewable sectors like the LNG and mining. As I said from the beginning, when the LNG construction now sort of eases off, we expected Wafi Golpu to come on so that it can offset some of the impact of the slowdown in construction. It's not happening. We are now stuck up and with a small amount of government intervention or stimulus. It's not helping much, but at least keeping the GDP going in Papua New Guinea. But if agriculture and tourism were being supported in the past, it would have been a different story. Those sectors would have continued to help or support the underlying growth in Papua New Guinea, rather than having a seesaw going, a growth that goes up and down, which is very much reflecting the trend in non-renewable sector project developments.
More after the break. You're back with Resource PNG. We now join Martin Namarong for the Resource News Update.
Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Resource News and Analysis. There are interesting times ahead given a recent central bank downgrade of economic growth from around 6% as projected by the government to 5%. This downgrade in economic growth has been attributed to the winding down of the PNG LNG project as well as a downturn in the price of PNG's key mineral exports. Papua New Guinea has a budget deficit of about 2.7 billion kina. Its trade deficit stands at about 1.2 billion kina. Its foreign reserves have been depleted by about 3 billion kina. This has led to a downward pressure on the kina, which has depreciated in value by about 10% since September last year. These figures reflect on the difficulty in the broader global economy and the impact it has had on Papua New Guinea's key commodity exports of copper, gold and oil. These commodities provide much of Papua New Guinea's foreign exchange earnings and about 17% of total government revenue. The decline of the price of Papua New Guinea's key commodity exports has led to a budget blowout of about 200 million kina. The commodities downturn has put downward pressure on the value of the kina, but what does it mean for ordinary Papua New Guineans? Take for instance the 10% decline in the value of the kina since September last year. What this means is that there has been a reduction in the buying power of the kina for many of Papua New Guinea's key imports such as rice, flour and fuel. This has led to a central bank assessment that inflation is bound to rise down the line. Of course, whilst many of these problems are reflected in the global economy, what it also highlights for Papua New Guinea is the need for a more diversified economy that goes beyond the resources sector. The nation's love affair with the resources sector has exposed it to the boom and bust cycles of the commodity prices. The need for a more diversified and resilient economy has been recognized recently by the member for Taripori and Finance Minister James Marape and his colleague, the Minister for Agriculture Tommy Tomskol, who both expressed concern about the impact the resource sector has on the agriculture sector and the rest of the economy in a process referred to as the Dutch disease.
The sector in the last 20 or so years has been devastated. Devastated by the increased activities in the oil, in the petroleum, and in the mining activities. In the wake of all these activities and the high revenue, many of our policymakers, our decision makers, many of our partners have diverted focus into those non-renewable sector. Walking into the future, I would want them to refocus on tying the opportunities of revenue in those non-renewable sector to develop the renewable sector. And I am really happy and delighted to hear from the Minister that that is the path he wants the people of Taripori to go down. and I commend the Minister. The devastation caused by the revenues in the oil and gas and the mining has resulted in the almost collapse of the agriculture sector, the near to collapse. Our task is now difficult, but one that is not impossible. It is one that we can achieve. Our task now is to redirect, to revitalize, and to rationalize the agriculture sector.
Similar sentiments over the need to diversify the economy have also been shared by the central bank governor.
There's some good thinking within government already to focus on agriculture and tourism, and I think even the business houses are supporting very much that call, and I think we are also supporting it too, that we should now refocus on renewable sectors so that we don't continue to depend on non-renewable sectors like LNG and mining. As I said from the beginning, when the LNG construction now sort of eases off, we expected WAFI Golpu to come on so that it can offset some of the impact of the slowdown in construction. It's not happening. We are now stuck up, and with a small amount of government intervention or stimulus, it's not helping much, but at least keeping the GDP going in Papua New Guinea. But if agriculture and tourism were being supported in the past, it would have been a different story.
Now turning to the LNG project, with construction now winding down and commissioning and testing of gas plants having commenced, the question now arises as to the future of the construction workers. Initially, the idea was that the government's fiscal stimulus would mop up excess workers who've been made redundant by the end of construction. However, capacity constraints within government have led to a slow implementation of the projects. The central bank, however, doesn't believe that the lack of implementation is a bad idea, given that the end of construction for the LNG project will be next year, and so any government projects implemented next year will mop up the excess workers. Turning now to the Oktedi issue, a month on, the dust hasn't settled yet, with various voices raising their concerns over an issue that has surely stirred up more than the riverine tailings along the Fly River. The Papua New Guinea Chamber of Mines and Petroleum has weighed in on the issue. In an interview with Resource PNG, the Chamber expressed its hope that the government will ensure an independently managed mine. The Chamber also hoped that the government would manage the international perceptions that have been created by the circumstances by which the Oktedi mine has been taken over.
And people overseas don't necessarily understand the full gambit of what's going on here. And we can just expressing this concern that it's maybe damaging our investor image and our investor confidence. And it's important to realise that the mining industry at the moment is in quite a serious downturn on a worldwide basis, which is having quite an impact on Papua New Guinea. So it's very important, especially important at the moment, that we nurture our investor image. Oktedi's a wonderful long-term asset. It's well managed, independently managed, and it's important that we maintain that wonderful asset.
Meanwhile, a recent national court decision has confirmed the state's ownership of Oktedi. And as the tide changes on the Oktedi saga, a new storm brews in the Bismarck Sea. The state has lost its battle with Nautilus. In a decision handed down in Sydney, a former High Court judge has awarded Nautilus Minerals $118 million, or about 300 million kina, to be paid by the state. This brings to an end a dispute that has dragged on for over a year, as the state has pussyfooted over whether it should take its 30% option in the Solwara 1 project. The Solwara 1 project is the first seabed mining operation anywhere in the world, although previously mineralized nodules have been extracted from the seabed. In light of the recent Oktedi saga, analysts are keenly observing as to whether the state will be able to cough up the cash to pay Nautilus Minerals.
Welcome back. Before we end the show, due to popular demand, in this next segment we will re-show the report on the 3rd National Mining Emergency Response Challenge, NMERC, hosted by Oktedi Mining Limited, OTML, from last week's episode for those of you that missed it.
The 3rd National Mining Emergency Response Challenge was hosted by Oktedi Mining Limited in Port Moresby on the 28th and 29th of August 2013. The event follows a very successful National Mining Safety Week that was held across all mines in the country in March 2013. The purpose of hosting this challenge every year is to bring mining and petroleum companies together in the year to interact by not only forming a close working partnership, but also to learn from each other, share skills and ideas on mine emergency and rescue procedures, as well as how they put them into action in their own working areas. The 2013 National Mining Emergency Rescue Challenge was held at the Murray Barracks in Port Moresby from August 28th to 29th. The competition involved participating teams to respond to artificially created emergency scenarios on firefighting, hazardous chemicals, search and rescue, rope rescue, multi-casualty, endurance, and a written theory paper. Oktedi Mining Limited's Managing Director Nigel Parker commended all those who participated and thanked the Chief Inspector of Mines for the initiative.
On behalf of OTML, as host, I would also like to acknowledge the organisational work undertaken by Bruce Hill and his team in putting this event together. These events highlight the importance of safety in our industry. At OTML, safety is our #1 priority, and we recognise the value of participation at national level. These events provide a rich environment for learning and improvements. None of these national events would be successful without the stewardship of the Chief Inspector of Mines and his team. The Emergency Response Challenge over the past 2 days has been a great event, and I'm honoured to lead the company that has had responsibility this year for organising the event.
In thanking the organisers, the Chief Inspector of Mines, Mohan Singh, noted that the National Mine Emergency Rescue Challenge was an innovative concept that has evolved to greater heights over the recent past.
When I looked at across Australia and other jurisdictions, I came to know that events like this, they are mainly driven by the industry, not by the regulator. So I had a challenge of that reverse engineering, that instead of the industry, probably the regulator has to take an initiative. And Governor, that is where the innovation came in that you mentioned. The innovation was, I have 2 hands, 1 head, 2 eyes. I have my own limitation. But I have hundreds of hands, I have thousands of brains. And I have, millions of feelings or sentiments running across the country. And my strategy or innovation was how I can bring them onto the one platform. And this is how the story of evolution, so to say, started in PNG 3 years back. And over these 3 years, I can very clearly see that evolution coming up. In 2011, we had only 5 teams participating in the ER Challenge. This year, there are 9 teams. And you already know that we have 1 team exclusively represented by ladies. This is something unique. I don't know any jurisdiction. In any jurisdiction across Australia or other places, there could be teams which are exclusively represented by ladies. This is something which is very, very encouraging. And I don't know whether it is a result of the innovation that we have put in or the interest that the industry is showing towards this place.
The increasing interest shown by the industry players was also demonstrated by the involvement of Oil Search amongst all the mining companies. Oil Search performed exceptionally well, thrashing the miners to take out the winning trophy. Oil Search finished off the event with top placings for the following events: Best Team Safety, Best Team First Aid, Best Individual Theory, Best Team Theory, Best Team Firefighting, Best Team Multi-Casualty, Best Medic, Best Team Captain.
A good leader is only as good as his team. And for me, personally, I've got the best team in the country. Thank you very much.
Best Team Overall, Chief Inspector's Award. This is the second year running that Mr. Airy and Mr. Lotte have won the Best Captain and Best Medic awards respectively.
Second place goes to Oil Search.
Team Oil Search finished second in the following events: Rope Rescue, Handling Hazardous Material, and Search and Rescue, and finished third in Team Endurance event.
It gives me great pleasure to call up
Team Barrick Pogra won the Best Safety Song, Endurance and Rope Rescue Challenges, while Ramonikal were winners of Best Safety Poster winner. Lihir won the Search and Rescue Challenge, while Morobe Mining Joint Venture scooped up the Hazardous Chemicals Response Challenge. The other winners included Team Ramonikal Mine for Encouragement Award, Team Ramonikal Refinery for Most Improved Team Award, and Team Lihir for Most Helpful Team.
That ends Resource PNG. If you have any comments or queries, do email us on this address, resourcepng@mtv.com.pg. Or to find out more, check MTV online, that's www.mtv.com.pg, and go to our Resource PNG page. Or you can check our page on Facebook. Next week on Resource PNG, we feature a solar-powered technology that could change the lives of Papua New Guineans in remote areas. Tune in to find out more. Until then, thanks for your company. Bye for now.